Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you, and welcome back. Well, it's still Sunday morning, and so I'm filming here on Sunday morning, and yeah, my back is still really hurting. It started spasming just a moment ago, just before I started filming here, and it's like, whoa, okay, that's not fun at all. So I'll be going on getting on the ice pack today for sure, and I've got one of those little round wheels, roll around wheels. I lay down with my back on it and I roll on it. Most of the time that gets my back in. Boy, this one is just not moving. So yeah, not much fun. Anyway, thank you for joining me again here on Tuesday morning. We are continuing our study of the feast days of Israel, and more specifically Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. We're examining the question, when was the atonement consummated? And I've shared with you that Hebrews chapter 9 lays out the typological actions of the high priest on the Day of Atonement. Now, look, there's virtual unanimity in scholarship that that's precisely what the Hebrew writer is doing. William Lane, in his commentary on the book of Hebrews, says that the writer is drawing on the typological actions of the Day of Atonement and comparing them with the work of Jesus Christ. William Lane is only one of a vast multitude of scholars who understand that the Day of Atonement is providing the typological background, the typological source for the work of Jesus. And thus the writer gives us the death of Jesus, Hebrews 9:26, the ascension of Christ into the most holy place, Hebrews 9:24, and the coming of Christ out of the most holy place to bring salvation. The death of the sacrifice, the entrance into the most holy place, and the offering of the blood of the sacrifice there on the horns of the hilasterion, that's the fancy name, that's a Greek term for the mercy seat. That's where the atonement was purchased, if you please. That's where the price was paid and applied to the mercy seat. But it was not, although we might say it was procured within the most holy place, it was not applied until the coming out of the most holy place by the high priest. That's just simply the way it worked. The Day of Atonement was a 3-step process. And I've had people scoff at the idea of process, but that's precisely what it was. A process is any step or steps to bring about an accomplished goal. You have offering of the sacrifice, entrance into the most holy place, coming out of the most holy place. It's a 3-step process, ladies and gentlemen. Any way you want to slice it, any way you want to dice it, any way you want to count it, it's a 3-step process. Well, as I suggested to you yesterday, I've had people tell me, well, Preston, you're completely redefining the word salvation in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 28. Now, mind you, the writer has just told us, verse 24, he has entered into the most holy place, there to appear in the presence of God for us. This is Christ, high priest, who went into the most holy place, as the writer says, for us, and to those who eagerly look for him. Pardon me. The imagery here, the mental picture is the crowd is gathered in this festal assembly, Hebrews chapter 12, verse 21 and following. The words that are used there in the original Greek, some translations properly render it, you have gathered together in a festal assembly at Mount Zion. It's the day of Yom Kippur and Sukkot. So the writer is reminding them through the language that he's using to those who eagerly look for him. They are the crowd, as it were, symbolically, typologically represented as standing outside the most holy place, eagerly awaiting for the high priest to come back out and to bring salvation. Now, I've already shared with you that we get this picture depicted to us in Luke chapter 1. Zacharias, the soon-to-be father of John the Baptizer. He went into the holy place, not the most holy place, there to offer one of the regular sacrifices and do the ministry. While he was in there, an angel appeared to him. Now, it's difficult to imagine that. Nobody's supposed to be in there except him, right? So to suggest that a mere man had slipped in there is kind of beyond ridiculous. No, this is an angel sent from God. Not a man, this is an angel. And he told Zacharias, Elizabeth, your wife, is going to have a child. And Zacharias laughed and scoffed, and the angel said, okay, you won't be able to speak until the child is born. Whole point being that he's in there, he's talking to the angel, and he's staying longer than he was supposed to. And the crowd outside was eagerly looking for him. The word that is used there is prosdekomai. And it carries with it about the same meaning as apakdekomai in Hebrews 9:28, to those who eagerly look for him. Maybe a little bit better, eagerly expect him. You get the point here? Zacharias was in the holy place and was not expected to stay there very long. And they were in great consternation. They were in great fear. And so when he came back out, they said, what in the world are you doing? Why didn't you come out? And he couldn't talk. A scholar by the name of Zeitlin, I've shared with you, on the Day of Atonement, went into the most holy place. While he's in there, the crowd is eagerly looking for him. You know, just like Hebrews 9:28 suggests, would be true on a regular Day of Atonement. They know he's not supposed to be in there forever. So they were eagerly looking, expecting to see him come back out. That's the imagery. And by the way, this one priest, as Zeitlin points out, he was probably overwhelmed with the special privilege that he had to be able to minister there in the most holy place. So he took time to pray, to meditate. He didn't come back out while the crowd was eagerly looking for him. And they waited and they waited and they waited. What's happened to him? Finally, he came back out. And the crowd castigated him, criticized him. And basically they said, you don't ever do that again. Because they were in such fear, they were in such expectation. And so here's the writer telling the readers, Christ appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. He entered into the most holy place. And to those who eagerly expect him, he shall appear again the second time. Folks, he is staying directly connected to the subject of the Day of Atonement. Oh, not so, we are told, by those who are now changing the subject. The subject is not now the atonement, and it's not Christ coming out of the most holy place for salvation, spiritual salvation. No, it's deliverance from the Neronian persecution. It's deliverance from the Jewish war. Well, I'm sorry, folks, that simply does not work. You know, in the first place, In a way, this argument is tacitly admitting that this coming of the Lord of Hebrews 9:28 is in fact the second appearing. But if it's the second appearing, it's his coming out of the most holy place. If it's coming out of the most holy place, that's the atonement. And that's not physical deliverance from physical warfare. Listen to me very carefully and please catch the power of this. The Day of Atonement was never about physical deliverance from war, conflict, etc. The Day of Atonement was always about making the nation right with God at one meant. To reconcile the nation with God. It never had the meaning that these folks are applying to Hebrews chapter 9, verse 28. It never had that significance of, deliverance from physical war. Deliverance from persecution. No. It never had that. But again, let me reiterate. If you're going to admit that Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 28 is the parousia of Christ, then you're admitting that it's his coming out of the most holy place. How then are you going to divorce that second appearing out of the second compartment, literally, the most holy place, from the Day of Atonement that is the subject of discussion in the previous verses? Folks, the idea that in Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 28, the writer has all of a sudden, without any no contextual indication whatsoever, changed the subject to deliverance from war, deliverance from Neronian persecution. All of a sudden now he's talking about some mythical rapture. The question is, where in the context is that justified? Where is it? The context is the Day of Atonement and forgiveness of sin. To deny that and to create a dichotomy in verse 28, the burden of proof is absolutely 100% upon the person making the claim. So what is the salvation that the first century saints were eagerly awaiting, and which was coming in a very, very little while, according to Hebrews chapter 10, verse 37, which is a continuation of the promise of chapter 9, verse 28. We're going to continue that on the flip side. In the meantime, listen, time's running out for you to take advantage of my June special, The End of the Law, Torah to Telos, Volume 1, and Temple to Telos. Both of these books deal specifically with the time of the end of the law of Moses. It was not at the cross. It was at the end of the Old Covenant age with the dissolution of the temple in AD 70. That's when all things written were to be fulfilled. Luke chapter 21 and verse 22. Anyway, go to my website, donkpreston.com, BibleProphecy.com. Order the two books. You're going to save yourself a really nice bundle of cash, about $20, right at $20. So this offer is only good through June 2024, U.S. orders only. So again, my website, donkpreston.com, BibleProphecy.com. Okay, thanks for joining me. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about what is this salvation that was coming in AD 70. So I'll see you on the flip side.